My favorite thing about this person is how they love to be introduced. And I'll share it with you this way. Nick Peterson is a guy, you can share for his name, who does stuff and sometimes things. And sometimes he doesn't. And that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Peterson.
Hey, all right, thank you. You can hear me okay? All right, I'll be quick because there's, I think Aaron's gonna come up after me and talk about way more interesting stuff. And thank you for sharing that definition. That comes from Virginia Satir. Most prefer the certainty of misery to the misery of uncertainty. And I'm gonna share another definition. This is my working definition of intelligence. How many people join this program or join other programs or came here hoping to maybe become more intelligent or increase their intelligence? All right, don't know what everybody else is doing, but that's okay. So, does somebody want to offer up their definition of intelligence? Anybody? Nobody named John? Hurry. Okay, I'll just share it. We'll skip the whole thing. My working definition of intelligence is the ability to get what you want. If something has increased your ability to get what you want, I would say it has made you more intelligent. Does that make sense? I don't care how so smart you sound. I don't care how cool you look. I don't care how well you test. For me, and what I do is focus on increasing your ability to get what you want. Make sense? All on the same page? Okay. So if intelligence is the ability to get what you want, what would be a fair definition of learning? Anybody want to give that one a? What's learning? What would you consider learning? Yeah. Yeah.
Acquiring knowledge while getting what you want.
Okay, acquiring knowledge while getting what you want. That's probably a pretty common definition. If increasing the ability to get what you want is intelligence, then I would argue learning is same circumstance, different behavior. Same circumstance, different behavior. So if you say, you know, I'm really tired of getting fights with my wife all the time. So you go to a seminar and you're like, oh, I'm really smart now, and then you keep getting in fights with your wife. Did it really make you more intelligent? Same circumstance, same behavior. You didn't learn anything. Cool? Following along? Okay, so my challenge to you, when you leave here and as you're talking to people and you get exposed to all of these amazing humans, is try that lens on. Try that lens on instead of, oh, I can't wait to repeat that and sound smart. What am I going to do about it? What circumstance do I have less than ideal behavior that I can try to apply this to and see if my behavior changes under this circumstance? And I would personally recommend you do that with everything that you participate in order to learn or get smart. Okay, so as you're going through the rest of the night and tomorrow and all that, I just challenge you to try that lens on. If it doesn't work for you, forget about it. Not a big deal. Okay? So who has learned something today for being here already that you feel like might increase your ability to get what you want? Okay. Of those people, how many came from something that somebody taught you directly? Like they said, hey, here's a lesson. Okay, it's good. How many observed something from maybe across the room? Maybe you saw how presidential Aaron is all the time, the way he carries himself, and you said, huh, I could learn from that. Right? Or maybe you overheard something, it wasn't directed to you, you're sitting at your table, but you overheard something and said, huh, that hit me. Wasn't to me, I'm not participating, but that hit me. Has anybody had that happen? Okay. Now, here is what I want to say about all that. Howard mentioned, I'll start with Aaron, actually. Aaron mentioned the 5 people that have had a massive impact on him and helped him make this exponential leap. Like 100x is exponential, it's nonlinear. Howard mentioned how humans tend to think in linear fashion. Right? So, what I do, the only thing I'm concerned about, I'm not like smart enough to do all the stuff Howard does, and I'm not socially I can't function socially like Aaron does. I don't have the patience for kids like Jay does. But I am hell-bent on trying to help people get what they want. Okay? So, if you are here and you can draw a straight line to what you want in a timeline that you deem appropriate, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, and you can see how you can incrementally get there, right? So maybe you make $100,000 a year, and if you work really hard and you get a raise, you get the certification, and you keep your head down, next year you'll make $110,000, and then 115, and then 120. If that will get you where you want to go, this is probably not like a kind of group that you're going to be in a lot, because you can get there by keeping your head down and working. Does that make sense? You can reach that kind of known, we'll call it a known potential, by just working hard and reading and applying. However, is anybody currently or has previously been honest about what they want, and it does not seem possible or feasible, or maybe you're afraid to be honest about what you want for that reason? Nobody? Okay. How many people are sitting somewhere right now that they they could not have conceived of years ago? Okay, so you went exponential. And you could not have conceived of it because it's not a linear path. So Jay also mentioned Dr. Jeff Spencer. Does anybody know Dr. Jeff Spencer? He was an Olympic medalist, and then a world-renowned glass artist, and then he went on to be the performance and mindset coach for Lance Armstrong, all 9 Tour de France victories, Tiger Woods, Richard Branson, Dave Asprey, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He's one of my best friends in the world. And so I'm going to share with you what we talk about. And is the idea of going exponential. Okay, so we already talked about linear. That's what that looks like. If you get in the crowds, it's like hustle, grind, work. That's linear. The best you can do is these incremental gains. So how do you go exponential? Does anybody want to take a stab at what Dr. Jeff Spencer would say will take you exponential? No? That could be a byproduct. Exposure, proximity, and access to the right people, places, and things. Exposure, proximity, and access to the right people, places, and things. That's why people come to things like this. People leave things like this, and the thought they have using different words is, people like us do stuff like this. You ever try to tell your family at Thanksgiving, like some of the shit that you're doing? And you almost just want to, for me anyway, it's like, I just want to get out of here. F you guys. That becomes a handicap. That is why we need to start investing time, effort, money, resources into exposure, proximity, and access to the right people, places, and things. And it's different. If you tell your family, hey, I paid this much money to come to this event, or your friends or coworkers or whatever, and they're like, what are you going to learn? They don't get it. Because you can learn from Google. Right? What happens is you get to observe how people carry themselves. And it's interesting. And you overhear the things they're talking about. And it hits you in ways that it would probably never hit you if you were having the dialogue, because when you're dialoguing with somebody, you kind of got your guard up and you're waiting to respond and all that stuff. So we have what we would call a known potential. You get there through hard work. If you got a straight line, if you are in corporate and you just got to climb the ladder, do it. That's all there is for you. But if you have something that is truly important to you and you don't see a path forward, the way to increase, in my opinion, the probability that you get those things, that it's all worth it at the end, is exposure, proximity, and access. You have to get around the right people, the right places, and the right things. Does that make sense? It's a little bit of a shift, and sometimes we feel guilty about it because when our friends and family go, "What's the deliverable?" You're like, people like us do stuff like this. And they don't get it, which is exactly why it's so important to find the right people, go to the right places, do the right things, which is usually like goofing off and stuff, and then maintaining it. Maintaining exposure, proximity, and access to the right people, places, and things. All that make sense? Cool. Now, I said I'd be quick, so I'm going to wrap up, but I will leave a minute if anybody has any questions or wants to throw in some experience or anything. No? Aaron, do you have any questions? Luck, plastic surgery, stuff like that. Exposure, proximity, and access to the right people, places, and things. All right, so you guys, speaking of exposure, proximity, access to the right people, places, and things, there's somebody with us right now who helped design, and I'll get to you in a second. Yeah, I saw you. Well, there's somebody with us right here that designed, hand-welded the Model S, the Model Y, the Ford GT40, the Humvee, all that fun stuff. And I've seen some people talking to him, and that is why you come to stuff like this. He's very good friends with Elon, and he had his hand raised, so.
This Thanksgiving thing.
Yeah.
Didn't you come to my house at Thanksgiving last year?
Next question. It's so much easier than you think it is. Most prefer the certainty of misery to the misery of uncertainty. Most of the time, the opportunities are everywhere. You're all here. It wasn't that hard to get here. But you did have to kind of bet on these dudes. You saw the ad, you had the conversation, maybe there was some uncertainty, but you decided. So when you're faced with two doors, door number one, door number two, door number one, 100% chance you stay in a miserable relationship. Door number two, 5% chance there's something much, much better. Which door do you take? In theory, you would take door number two. In reality, most people take door number one. That's the hard part. The hard part is not choosing the certainty of misery. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the opportunities, I could tell you right now, when I first, how much time do we have? I don't want to take too much time. 2 minutes, okay. So in 2012, I went pro in strongman. In 2014, I was top 5 all time as a powerlifter at 220. And that happened really quickly. And everybody's like, oh, you got lucky because you know all these people. And here's what I learned during that time. There was one guy in particular who everybody that trained with him went pro. But he wouldn't train with anybody. He's like, I'm done. And so I reached out. That's what everybody was saying. And I reached out and I said, I want to train with you. And he said, where do you live? I said, Fort Pierce, Florida. He said, well, I'm in Jacksonville. It's like a 3.5-hour drive. Do you have a car? And I didn't. I was sleeping in the gym. He said, no, I don't have a car. And he said, well, if you're here Saturday at noon, here's the address. You can train with me. So I found a way. I found a way to train with him. And afterwards, he said, you can come back next week if you want. And since then, it's been the same thing. If you are willing to go out of your way, get in the room, and participate, you get invited back. So it's not difficult to find the opportunities. It can be difficult to capitalize on them, but that's like the cognitive distortions that we're dealing with more so than the resource limitation. Every now and then, and it's hard, but you guys advertise. Anybody else have Aaron in their fucking news feed 45 times a day. Yeah. So it's not hard to find the opportunities. They actually pay to get in front of you. But then there's the diligence and the dealing with the uncertainty and all that stuff. So hopefully that answers your question. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll be around hanging out, and tomorrow, last example, it's like a big inception moment. Tomorrow's Tarbell's, right? Who's going to Tarbell's tomorrow?
Everybody should raise your hand.
Yeah, raise your hands. Who's the kind of person that never raises their hand ever, no matter what? Okay. So Mark Tarbell, you're going to have a great time. Mark is one of the most successful chefs in the world. He's one of the kindest people in the world. He's one of my dearest friends. And when they're doing an event, I connect him with Mark. I said, Mark will take care of you. And did he take care of you? And he took care of him. You're going to get VIP service from one of the top chefs in the world. And last time we were there was like 3 billionaires eating. It was like a Wednesday night. How does that happen? Exposure, proximity, and access to the right people, places, and things.